going to be upgrading the ground wires in the Subaru, doing 3 main wires for it as well. I think they call it the big 3. What I'm going to do is I'm going to test with a multimeter a few different points, see if there's any issues. I had the intercooler off the other day. Underneath the transmission ground was green. It's got temporarily fixed because I didn't have a connector the right size to fit on it. I've got some bigger gauge wire now, and I'll just fix that properly and also upgrade the system at the same time. What I need to do is whip the intercooler off. So if you've got a dump valve, you can just whip off your hose off your dump valve, your hose on this side, your 2 hoses on this side, your jubilee and your white piece, that goes off the turbo, and your top jubilee on the cooler itself. And you'll have 2 12mm bolts on each side of the intercooler. Just pop them off and you'll be able to wiggle it off. So I've got the intercooler off, taken the negative terminal off, I've wrapped a bit of electrical tape around to stop arcing. I'm just making my first fitting. You want one of these with your fittings. You can also get small ones, I think for about 20 quid online. And you can crimp everything up properly. So we're going to go from the negative terminal straight onto the body of the car, supporting the one that's already on there. You can see the difference in wire size. You know, it's a way thicker. It's probably overkill, but it'll definitely do its job, to be fair. When you're working with this thicker gauge wire, if you've just got a razor and your snips, you'll be able to just cut down the edges like that, and then just run your snips around, and it just helps it come off a lot easier than trying to just use the snips themselves and peel it off. And that should just slide off in a second or two. I'm just working these around. There we go. That just comes off a lot easier. Once you've got your wire mocked in place where you want it, you've got it connected here, looping behind the battery on here. Just get a bit of sandpaper, and you're just going to want to go ahead and give it a nice bit of sanding down, just so you can see the paintwork. The other one were good, but as it's a bigger terminal, we want to get all the contacts on there, and you don't just go by the bolt. You want direct contact on the body itself. So just go ahead and give that a clean down to get to some bare metal, and then you can complete the first one. What we'll do for the second one is we'll run an extra power cable off of the alternator. We'll just loom it underneath if possible, and we'll go directly onto the battery for that part. Once you've done that, you'll have something like this. So you got from your negative to your body, and then you've got from your positive to your alternator. What we're going to go ahead and do as well is we're going to tie in the ground cable from here directly into your transmission. This transmission ground is actually tied into the one directly off the battery as well, so that just loops everything in. And once everything's done, you'll be looking at something like this. So everything's connected again, that's tucked down there nicely out of the way. This is all here going into the alternator. I also replaced the end of the ground there. Don't mind these cables, I need to do something with them at some point. That's tied into there. Remember to sand all the surfaces down, even the bolts, run a bit of sandpaper around it all. And then that one's tied in, resting on the original pitch mount, which is plastic. I've also wrapped, as you can see, electrical tape around just in case. If there's any signs of rubbing, you'd see the red underneath. And then I've tied that in, sanded underneath there, and your original ground there, and you can see the difference. It's massive. So definitely mean with your 2 original grounds on your inlet on your WRXs, on your blob buys, that it's sufficient enough to run with everything. What I'm doing now also, just to be a bit OCD, as you can see I'm sanding that off, I'm just making a ground wire to run directly from the back of the alternator. So behind the cables you'll have your bracket, your nut there. I've made it so cable is like this on one end on the other, and I'm going to bolt that straight onto the top with that ground wire. And then what I'm going to do is make another one from this side and then just tap it straight onto there, just so they're both matching. And obviously when the alternator's running, the voltage increases as well, so everything's going to be looped completely. So this is just a couple of days later. Everything's done now. I'm going to go ahead and start it up. Might just give it a quick multimeter test. As you can see, everything looks pretty factory, not the obvious. So you've just got your original body one there, your second body one, and then the one that we fitted there. That's done there. You've got your power directly to your alternator, and then from the back of the alternator, as you can see on that nut, this one was the right pin. It took quite a while, so we had to back the nut out, so there's only a few threads showing, and then pop on the cable and then try and get the bracket on, because it sits in that position there. Put that on and then tighten it up. I've just run it underneath, it's not touching anything, it's quite a nice length, and then just tuck it underneath the housing for intake into there. And then you've got your other side on here going directly to your negative terminal as well, and then the rest of the other ones are underneath like I was showing you before. I'm going to go ahead and check with the multimeter that everything's running correctly. I did briefly turn it on for about 20 seconds and it seemed alright, so I'm just going to go and test a few points. And get a reference strip for the battery. That's reading 1256. It's quite a decent battery. Both of our body one that we've done, the same 1256. We'll go ahead and go for in that. Same on that side. We'll go for our left side over here. And that's the same yet again. I did check underneath, but I didn't video it before I put the cooler on, and they was all matching as well, so